Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 442 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today's show is short but sweet. It's a Defining Diabetes episode with Jenny Smith. In this episode of Defining Diabetes, we're going to let you know about hydration and why it's so important when you're using man-made insulin. Please remember while you're listening that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Jenny Smith holds a bachelor's degree in human nutrition. Jenny Smith holds a bachelor's degree in human nutrition and biology from the University of Wisconsin, a certified diabetes educator and a certified trainer on most makes and models of insulin pumps and continuous glucose monitors. She's also had type 1 diabetes for over 3 decades. That's 30 years. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Gvoke HypoPen has no visible needle and is the first pre-mixed auto-injector of glucagon for very low blood sugar in adults and kids with diabetes, ages 2 and above. Not only is Gvoke HypoPen simple to administer, but it's simple to learn more about. All you have to do is go to gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used in patients with insulinoma or pheochromocytoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk. Far too often, we don't look into the blood glucose meter that we have. We take the one that the doctor gives us or the one that, is somewhere. But how often do we think, do I have an accurate meter? Is it easy to use? Is it going to give me results that are meaningful for my health? If that's what you want, you can get the same meter Arden has, the Contour Next 1. You can find out more at contournext.com/juicebox. Now, when you get there, you're going to find out a lot. You're going to be able to see the meter and read all about it. You'll find, because if you want to look deeper into your data that's coming from that, because if you want to look deeper into the data that's coming from that meter, you can with the help of Contour's app. You can also learn more about their test strip safety and dig in. Not only that, but you can find out more about details like second chance test strips, which I think is such a big deal. The idea that if you touch a test strip to a blood drop and don't get enough, you can go back with that same test strip, touch it again, and get an accurate reading. That's no more wasted test strips, and accuracy that you can trust. contournext.com/juicebox. There are links in your show notes and at juiceboxpodcast.com for all of the sponsors. Check them out. I put the ads up front today because the episode's short and it just felt weird to break it up, so I appreciate you listening. Let's get right into Defining Diabetes Hydration with Jenny Smith. I want to define hydration as it impacts using insulin. So can you tell me why a dehydrated body doesn't move insulin around the way it should?
Well, a dehydrated body doesn't move anything around the way that it should.
Okay.
So, if you think about it in the general sense, it doesn't move insulin around. It doesn't move sugar around. It doesn't move any of the nutrients from any of the food that you ate around. It doesn't move your cells around. It's like, you can tell dehydration from like a mud puddle, for instance.
Okay.
Right? The less water in a mud puddle, you still have some like physical hydrated goopiness sort of there, if you will.
All right.
But if you can imagine that like partially like wet mud, it's very thick. You would not expect that to run through a straw with ease.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It would stop it up, which means that if you had some type of something you had stuck in the mud and you really needed it to get from point A to point B, it's going to take a heck of a long time for that to actually move through the mud because it's so thick, right? It's goopy. Whereas once you pour a bucket of water into this mud pit, now you've got liquid. And now you can see that you could float a boat, you could, have a leaf pass from one side of the puddle to the other. But that, if you imagine that leaf being nutrients, insulin, glucose, vitamins, minerals, everything that moves in the system that's supposed to, it moves freely because you have more liquid there to move it in the way that your body is supposed to be moving things through your, vessels and cells and everything. Okay. So insulin is definitely going to it's going to be harder to circulate your insulin from a site. And we put insulin, remember, into the sub-Q tissue. So into like your little fatty layer that sits below the surface of your skin. We're not putting it into a vein to get immediate movement on it.
Right.
So with less hydration, you've got less hydration under the skin as well. And so you've got this depot of insulin that, again, it's not going to get fluidly moved. It's going to take longer for it to impact.
And so when it's not moving, it's not being taken up by the cells.
Right.
And it can't release the glucose that's trapped in the cell. So you're injecting insulin into that layer. You need a proper or reasonable level of hydration so that insulin gets picked up and moved around and then can do its job. So you can keep piling insulin under your skin, basically, and be dehydrated and then hydrate yourself and whoosh, here it all comes. And now you could have too much insulin in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And so is it fair to say that hydration from your experience is different from different people? Like maybe I need more or less than the next person does? Is it on like, because I can hear people in my head going, I can't make my kid drink water, because it's hard,
It is. I mean, from a standpoint, does a 2-year-old need the same amount of fluid as a big, 200-pound man? Obviously,
Drink all of this.
But I mean, in general, age-wise, activity level-wise, a good judge of hydration is the color of your urine.
Yeah.
That's the best that there is. If you're well hydrated, your urine should be a very, very, very pale lemonade, like minimal, like yellow color to it, right? Yeah. If you've got this dark colored pee, so sorry, drink some water.
You gotta drink some water. And so, because you'll see people all the time say like, they'll put up a graph or they'll ask a question online and somebody will inevitably come in and say like, are you hydrated? And it's one of those things that I think just gets missed in general by people. Like your brain always jumps to like the worst thing, like my cannula's bent, right. But you need to, I am a proponent of, especially when Arden used to get up in the morning and go to school, I'd be holding water here, drink something before you leave. Even if it's 8 ounces, just please like put it in real quickly. And I think I finally created a habit with her because now she drinks water in the morning. And I'm sorry for all the people who can only hear my Philly accent when I say water. But I know there's plenty of people listening right now going, oh my God, he said it again.
I don't hear a difference. I don't know.
My kids yell.
I must say water different than you. I guess it doesn't sound different to me, but I don't listen to myself say water.
You say water and I say water.
Water.
Yeah. And then my children, even my kids are like, because they didn't grow up in Philly, they grew up here where we are. So they're just like, you're saying it wrong. And then they laugh at me. And I'll get notes from people. Like I got a note from a guy one time. He's like, could you just please say water more often? It's like, great. Thanks a lot. Glad the podcast is valuable for you. But you have to be so hydration is a tool of diabetes management, whether you think about it or not.
And it's also one, and I think we've talked about it before when we've talked about CGMs. Mm-hmm. Huge impact on the ability for a CGM to be accurate.
Yeah.
If you are hydrated, because the CGM is measuring interstitial glucose, which is just really the glucose that's floating around in the fluid in your body, not that in which is in your bloodstream, right? That you do with a finger stick. If you're dehydrated, you are not going to have as accurate, and your sensor might actually give you more errors.
Yeah. It's harder for it to make sense of it when things aren't floating by constantly that it can measure.
Right.
All right. I just feel like that's such a simple thing. And at the same time, these Defining Diabetes episodes, I'm reminded over and over again. It's more and more frequently. I just saw a father of a young child say today, I'm here. I appreciate everybody, but it feels like you're speaking another language because of all these terms that I just don't understand or how they intersect even. So I know it'll seem simple to the people who know already, but it needs to be here within the body of the podcast. Like, you need to be hydrated for your insulin to work properly.
Right.
And that's just that. It's super simple. And, it might not be as easy as give your kid a glass of water and watch their blood sugar go down, but it also might be. And so it depends on how much insulin you have on board and what your situation is in. So please stay hydrated. Right. I know that sounds like I'm like somebody's mom telling them drink water, but it's really important.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's it. Right. Sometimes it's just really important.
Yeah.
So, yes.
All right. Well, thank you. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. And while you're on the internet, check out the Contour Next One blood glucose meter and all the great information at contournext.com/juicebox. And if you'd like to contact Jenny, she's at integrateddiabetes.com.